Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Who could complain? Not me. Things going great. We're having a good laugh, right? Let's see what the folks are saying in the comments. It's come to my attention that well, first of all, I don't get the X viewers that count as I come through on the Rumble studio thing, but the comments don't come at all from X. So if you're leaving comments and you're on X, they don't make it through. They just don't make it through, right? So if you want to leave a comment, which I love, right? If you want to have some interaction, they come in just fine on Rumble and YouTube. Christine, good morning. I hope you're doing well. P-Man, good morning, fabulous people. We love the fabulous people. We love the fabulous and the not fabulous. We love the highly educated and the poorly educated. I watched a bit of Trump's thing in Arizona last night, so that's why he was talking about who he's winning with, and he was doing the old-fashioned, we're gonna win with the poor. I love the poorly educated. He was back. You remember when they used to give him a hard time about loving poorly educated people? He loves the poor. He thinks people are stupid. He thinks his fans are dumb. Good morning, Team Bitcoin. We love Team Bitcoin. We love it. Not up on YouTube. Be your best. Well, I'm getting some comments, so I think I am on YouTube. Be your best you. Be your best you. I think I'm on YouTube. So there is a delay though. The YouTube is a little behind the Rumble, as I understand. Double B, I made it live. Edwin, good morning, gang. Good morning, gang. I hope everyone's doing great. I hope everyone's doing great. Boy, do we have some fake news to talk about this morning. Good morning, Jevy. I hope you're doing well, my man. Hope you're doing well. I liked the hamburger prep the other day. I'm a big fan of the ground beef. Thanks for those tips. If you guys don't know, Jevy has an excellent newsletter called Primal Cut. It's great. I got him a subscriber the other day, I think. He was asking me about food resources, and I said, well, you can go with Bitcoiners. Right? Jeffy's not gonna be selling, he's not sneaking bug sales in there, right? Okay, Nolan. Everyday Walking with Christ says, I got you on YouTube. Yeah, we're coming through on YouTube. No problem. You on YouTube? Yeah, I thought so, guys. I thought so. If I see this many comments coming in through YouTube, I know it's connected. You can never trust the answers, but you never know. And Rumble and X, you are in through. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, everyone. We love it. We love it. Let's get started. We got a sunrise. You can kind of see it shining through here, right? We got some amazing brightness happening. We're still working on the studio to get the right design. It's pretty gray out there, so it surprises me that this is going on, but that's okay, right? The sun's up, the flag's down, right? Flag's down, but Bitcoin's running. We're doing great, everyone. We're doing great. All right, let's get to some Moscow time. All the heat stuff. We got more heat stuff. Where's it hot? Where's it hot today? The UN made some comments about all the heat yesterday. They said the world hit streak of record temperatures as UN warns of climate hell. Where is it climate hell? Well, we know Phoenix is hot. Arizona's hot. Phoenix using ice immersion to treat heat stroke victims as Southwest bakes in triple digits. Oh, it's hot. It's 100 degrees in the Southwest. This one's great, right? Okay, this comes from the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail here still, like, their audience hasn't caught on that you can't measure the temperature on Earth. Like, hey, go measure the temperature on Earth. All of it, right? So here's what they say. Last month was officially the hottest May on record with global temperatures just everywhere. It's just everywhere in the world. It's the warmest, right? With global temperatures 0.65 degrees Celsius above average, as scientists say, the climate continues to alarm us. We're going to talk about these scientists, right? Bloomberg Green. May marked the Earth's 12th consecutive month. 12 consecutive months of record-breaking temperatures with more heat waves expected this summer. The world has spent a shocking full year breaking heat records. Double B. I live in Phoenix. It's always hot. Come on, always. Is it always record-breaking, Double B? Jevy says, it's hot in southern Arizona. It is. I'm shocked too. If I didn't have all these confirmations coming in, I would be like, shit, I'm going to plan a ski trip to Arizona in June. What would I do without the news? I wouldn't know. I would not know. This is good. This is from the New York Times. When will the heat end? Question mark. Western U.S. braces for peak temperatures. Nearly 19 million people across the Southwest were under an excessive heat warning Thursday, when several cities were expected to tie or even break heat records. But we've been told it's been for 12 months. Yeah, we got the Washington Post. 12 months of record warmth, they say. Dangerous global threshold nears. Do I have more heat ones? I think I got a few more of these heat ones. Oh, yeah. Axios, dangerous heat wave sweeping U.S. Southwest threatens to break more temperature records. More. All these records getting broken. So if it's not the weather that's going to kill you, okay, then we all know what's next. After the weather, right, we heard the monkeys are less of a threat because they're dying in Mexico because it's too hot, right? But what about the cows? The cows are getting the bird flu, everyone. And now it's jumping. It's jumping. We've heard about the bird flu. We had 3 cases in America of bird flu, 3 in 300 million. That's 1 in 100 million. What's happening in Mexico? Oh my God. We're not there. Well, the New York Times first setting the stage. New York Times with the bird flu. The bird flu virus adapted to sea mammals. It may not be done yet. Bird flu's coming. Huge die-offs of elephant seals occurred after the virus gained nearly 20 troublesome new mutations, scientists found. What else is going on with the bird flu? What else is going on? We get this guy in Mexico. Where's my Mexican guy? He died of bird flu. Oh, yeah, there it is. This guy here. World Health Organization warns a new strain of bird flu has jumped to humans with potential for high public health impact. As man in Mexico, 59, tests positive before dying from it. Well, we learned a little more about what happened to the Mexican bird flu victim. This is what we say, right? Turns out the man that the WHO claimed died from bird flu in Mexico was confined to a bed with type 2 diabetes and kidney failure. I'm not laughing at the bird flu victim. I'm laughing at the diabetes, okay? It's not funny when people die, right? I'm not laughing at the Mexican who died from bird flu, also known as type 2 diabetes, and he's bedridden. I'm not laughing at that, right? Just don't go near people. You're going to get bird flu, everyone. Where's the vaccine? I need it. 12 shots immediately. I don't want to die like the guy with diabetes who's bed-stricken. I don't want to die like him. Okay, well, there's a few things you can do. Right? If you're sick and you're dying and you're not healthy, right? And you've got diabetes, but you're also afraid of bird flu, right? What's the answer? Some people say it's exercise. Some people, right? Some people say that. But The Guardian, you might have seen this one. This is pretty good, right? Be careful. Be careful if you try and use exercise to feel better, because getting fit is great. This comes from Zoe Williams, right? Getting fit is great, but it could turn you into a right-wing jerk. All right. You can turn into a right-wing jerk, right? The more self-actualized you become, the higher you are on self-righteousness. All right. Blaming other people's problems on their failures to be as healthy as you, right? So, just guys, getting fit might make you into a jerk, a right-wing jerk, even worse. Okay. And it might actually make you think that like things you do have consequences. And then you're going to tell other people that the things they do have consequences. What are we going to do? I mean, there's a consequence to all that, right? So be careful out there. Be careful. Don't work out too much. Going to turn you into a right-wing jerk, right? There you go. Here's in case you don't want to work out too much, but you also don't want to be a right-wing jerk, California is the place for you. All right, here's what we know in California. In Skid Row, a 19-story residential tower for homeless people will offer gym, cafe, and art studio. Perfect. It's perfect, okay? You don't want to work out and be a right-wing jerk. You're a little bit afraid of living on the streets because of bird flu and other things. Just move to this place in California. It's 19 stories, guys. You're worried about inflation. You're worried about the economy. You're worried about paying your bills. Gosh, just move to LA. They got free residential towers if you're homeless. Gym, cafe, everything. It's perfect, right? Who would complain? Who would complain? All right, we got this one too. No, I'll save this one. I'll save that for the end. We're gonna finish up on it. All right, let's go to so Hunter Biden. You know, he's got the testimony. What's going on with Hunter? Well, good thing we have the Washington Post. I can catch all up on the Hunter Biden testimony with it, right? So this is what they found out in the Washington Post. In some of the most gripping testimony of the first 3 days of court proceedings, Hunter Biden's sister weeps in the courtroom. What? His wife confronts a provocateur. Oh, Biden family members and ex-members are witnesses to all this family trouble. Oh my goodness. Hunter Biden's trial provides stark window into family drama. Can you believe they have family drama over there at the Biden house? Jeez. If it wasn't for all these working out right-wing jerks that just won't leave them alone. It's so bad. It's so bad. So the New York Times, you know, because of all these right-wing jerks, was doing some polling with what's going on with the Trump thing. And this is what they found out. Small shift towards Biden after Trump verdict. A small shift, but it's the little things that count. It's the little things that count, right? They love it. It's the little things. All right, now I've got some excellent Phil Bump stuff. Phil Bump, what's happening with Bump? What's up with the Bump? All right, this one is actually really gorgeous. It's beautiful. I don't know what we would do without it, right? Phil Bump, you know, sometimes I say maybe he's writing too much, right? He's doing like 3-4 articles a day, right? He's doing all these things. But this is his latest brilliant stuff. This is brilliant, okay? This is brilliant. This is what he says. Phil Bump from this morning. The link, all right, ready for this, everyone? The link between the news Americans consume and the things they believe. All right, all right. Issue importance, confidence in reality, and acceptance of false claims varies widely by news source. Okay, so what he's saying is if you read him, you'll know what the truth is and what reality is, and then you'll be fine. But if you go elsewhere, you're going to be fucked up and read things that are fake, right? Phil Bump is telling you, if you don't read him, you're going to read things that are fake. Fake. He's also got this one, a new look at the cultural insecurity of Trump supporters, right? The cultural, it's because we have cultural insecurity, guys. That's the issue, right? I think Bitcoiners probably have cultural insecurity, according to Phil Bump, right? Cultural insecurity. So here's what he says, the link between the news Americans consume. So he had 2 great articles today, right? That they're insecure, right? That people who disagree with him are insecure, and it's obvious. But it's also obvious that if you get your news from elsewhere, you're an idiot, thereby making you insecure, right? Oh, I'm not kidding. This is Phil Bump today. Phil Bump trying to educate us on the news, right? So there he is. This is his conclusion. He says, here's what he says, right? There's a caveat to apply here. Choose different questions. Oh, no, he's talking about the data, right? Anyway, it's just the polls that are in there. And where is it? I didn't get it. So anyway, the point is Phil Bump had all this evidence that if you read this, then you're stupid. And that can explain why you have a confidence problem and all this stuff, right? So here's what it is, right? Now, what he said is true. Right. So I'm not disagreeing with what Phil Bump is saying here. The link between the news Americans consume and the things they believe are consequential. They're not just correlated, they're cause and effect. Right. Now, imagine this. This is the next story that I have. This is the blend between our theme. That's Moscow time for the day, but we're not quite done because it moves into the theme, as I like to do. I love when Moscow time lines up with the theme. It's one of my favorite things, right? So this is all about your information sources, right? So just as Phil Bump is saying here, right? Just as Phil Bump is saying, there's a link between the news Americans consume and the things you believe, right? So input and output, right? So input, output. Very simple. All Bitcoiners understand that, right? But it turns out that the #1 science publication in America called Wiley, right? I have some Wiley books. I bought some Wiley books. Well, Wiley not doing so great. It turns out that Wiley is shutting down. So if you got your news from a science publication, the largest in the world, the largest scientific academic publication in the world, if that's where you got your news from, I got news for you. You're fucked. It's all scammy and fake, okay? Now, Bitcoiners understand that peer-to-peer information networks are really important, and that's the reason why we like to decentralize our transaction confirmations and many other things, including our news sources. But imagine you got your news sources from a centralized academic publication and all of their editors. Well, those peer reviews don't really count for much. It turns out that the 11,000 papers that they've written are fake and they're not real. And so now Wiley are going to have to shut down as a result of this. Now, you haven't heard much of this in the fake news, right? But it's a big deal. So here's what we know. Camus writes, John Wiley & Sons, a major academic publisher, is currently retracting more than 11,300 peer-reviewed science papers that they had previously published. These papers were once regarded as cutting-edge science and were cited numerous times by other academic researchers. Now these scientific papers, which often relied on taxpayer dollars for research funding, are being revealed as fraudulent. What? What? Additionally, the 217-year-old publisher announced the closure of 19 journals due to large-scale research fraud. The fake papers often contain nonsensical phrases generated by AI to avoid plagiarism detection. Examples include breast cancer referred to as bosom pearl. It's a bosom pearl, right? Maybe that can explain why there's a paper in Canada that had to apologize because again they were talking about something to do with menstruation or something, and I guess they called it their front hole or their top hole or something, and they didn't do it right. Let me get the actual story. I didn't put it in my notes, but it's a good one. It's a good one. Canada always good for the fake news, you know. Canada's always good for the fake stuff. Let me see what they say. Let me see what the Canadians are saying about it. All right, just because it was funny. Just I like the funny ones, right? Oh yeah, here the Canadian Cancer Society apologizes for not calling the cervix the front hole. Okay, so all those front hole people watching the show, right? All you front holers. I thought it was top hole. Whoops. So the science guy is not doing so well, right? So he goes on. So breast cancer, bosom pearl, cervix, front hole, fluid dynamics were written as a gooey stream. A gooey stream, okay. In one paper, artificial intelligence was called counterfeit consciousness. Counterfeit consciousness. I love it. These systemic issues of fraud have significantly damaged the legitimacy of science research and damaged the integrity of scientific journals. The academic publishing industry, valued at nearly $30 billion, faces a credibility crisis. So I agree with what he's saying. I agree with what Bump is saying, right? If you get your information from garbage sources, you're going to have a garbage brain. Okay, you're going to be filled with garbage. And if you get all these science papers in your brain, it's nothing but garbage. Now, it brings me to my point, though, and that's our theme: the hero with 1,000 wallets. That's why I chose the. That's why I chose the Luke Skywalker cover. Did you know that the Joseph Campbell book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is about the monomyth, which is a distilled idea about how hero stories exist, why people like them. Joseph Campbell, if you didn't know this, was a university teacher. I don't think he published in Wiley, but he was George Lucas's teacher, professor, and he taught that, you know, he lived in Japan for years. He was a practicing Catholic himself. What he taught was there's this archetype in our fantasy stories, in our science fiction stories, which is the monomyth, a story about a hero. So the Matrix would have been created according to this. Luke Skywalker definitely was created according to this formula. And if you even bought the book back in the 80s and 90s, Joseph Campbell's book, very difficult to read. So I would not recommend reading the book. It was written with an academic language. So it's not actually easy to read. I read it a few times as a kid. And generally, I'm a huge Joseph Campbell fan. The best way to access the information is a documentary. I mean, it's like 18 hours long or something, that he created with Bill Moyer on PBS back in the old days. And it's Joseph Campbell as he's dying. He's got cancer. He doesn't go on and on about dying of cancer, but he's sick. He's quite old in the video. And it's just about an 18-hour dialogue of these people just chatting about the book and what he knows and myth and mythology and all that stuff. It's actually the best way to access the content. So if you're looking for a way to access, I'm sure people have made YouTube videos about it. I used to have the DVDs. They were great. So now the cover of the book for many years had Luke Skywalker on it. That's one reason why it even came under my, that's the reason why I even knew it existed. I was in a bookstore and I was like, what's this book? And it had the picture of Luke Skywalker on it. And so I was like, oh, I want to know more about this. And that's how I got introduced to the Joseph Campbell stories. So now the book is called, the main book that everyone knows is called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The documentary series is called The Power of Myth. So have a look at it. So The Hero with 1,000 Faces, I switched it today to The Hero with 1,000 Wallets, only because what we're starting to see is like people like Phil Bump that have a boss that's under the payroll of the Washington Post, right? Losing all this money. Is it called Mythos? I don't think so, Steve. I don't think it's called Mythos. I mean, I'm sure there's different repackaged books, but Here with 1,000 Faces is the one that I know. And The Power of Myth was the name of the series on PBS or whoever recorded it. It was all recorded actually at George Lucas's house, Skywalker Ranch, so in California. So pretty neat stuff. So, but here's the thing, right? When you compare people like Phil Bump that have a boss that are still operating under this business model of creating news, right? The news business model, which is broken, right? Which has been infiltrated, which has been totally corrupted, right? We see the media is just a captured industry, the same way that the Food and Drug Administration is a captured bureaucracy under the corrupt food and drug industry, right? That's why we can tell that the whole thing is completely useless, because what we're getting out of the FDA is really just what the corporate leaders want, right? It's not actually helping you save you from celiac disease, or it didn't prevent any of the glyphosate being in your food, right? It didn't prevent any of these crazy medicines. It hasn't prevented any of the horrors we've seen in our medical industry. So they're just there to do the bidding of the industry. We've seen the revolving door, right? This is a big thing of RFK's campaign, the captured industries that are being regulated. So you can see it very easy in individual industries. Now, the captured industry of politics is the media. That's the industry they captured. That's why you only get these cheerleaders. That's why you only get propaganda, the business model itself. But what we've seen with all of these independent people coming online and voicing their displeasure with what they see in America is an unstoppable train now. And it's something we've predicted here on the show for a long time, that the P2P information system that we use, right? The reason why we all come together every morning. I don't have a boss. None of the stuff that I say is being filtered through some corporate consideration. Of course, I would like to make money on it, right? But that's not the same as I have to listen to my boss's idea of how you make money on this stuff. So we've seen Tucker Carlson go on his own. We've seen people like David Sachs create amazing podcasts that reach more people now than mainstream news. And we've seen Dr. Phil come online, right? How amazing is this Dr. Phil story? What did I tell you months ago when I saw Dr. Phil starting to get engaged in all this stuff? Well, he had Trump on yesterday. And so again, this is another one of these independent media guys, right? He has Trump on yesterday. And it's another one of these interviews that just humanizes Trump beyond the brainwashing and the propaganda, right? All these people, Trump is losing. So he goes on Dr. Phil yesterday, and Dr. Phil has been in everyone's house for a long time. He's pretty trusted in America. If you're not American, you don't know who Dr. Phil is. he kind of took the time slot from Oprah. Oprah incubated his career. And then when Oprah sort of was too rich and started to move away, he came in and took over the job in a lot of ways, took over the time slot. It was the 4 to 5 p.m. time slot. A lot of mothers making dinner in America. And that's when my mom used to listen to Oprah when I was growing up. It was, dinner was getting prepped. I'd be home from school. She'd be watching Oprah. All kinds of people loved Oprah, right? So here's what Dr. Phil is saying, right? Dr. Phil, audience member, says watching his interview with Trump gave her a new perception of Trump and says the media has been lying in their portrayal of him. Remember I told you we'd see all these, the watch videos, right? The reaction, and people would see how many lies have been told, how much Phil Bump has rolled these people. And you were going to see this sort of reaction awakening type videos, and they'd be all year in 2024 is just going to be that, right? So Dr. Phil's got a captive audience there. And indeed, that's what's happening. These people had no idea, and they're starting to realize just how deep the lies are, right? K Cash MAGA Queen writes, this interview with Dr. Phil is giving people a look inside President Trump's deepest thoughts. And that is such a good thing for us to see. He is so strong because, as he says, he has our support. He knows this, and it keeps him going, right? Everyone watching this interview last night, a lot of people saying, and exactly as Phil Bump says, where you get your information from matters. Thanks, Phil Bump, with your genius observation. But that's the issue. No one's getting it from these shit sources anymore, right? Here he is again, Trump on Dr. Phil. You've taken every shot you could imagine. You've been criticized, attacked, called every name in the book. They've turned the judicial system, intelligence community, media, and the internet against you. How do you deal with that stress? Two things, he says. One, I don't like thinking about it. Out of sight, out of mind. I don't like thinking about it, yeah. Two, I have tremendous support. I have the people's support, he says, right? So you get that whole interview, not everyone's going to see it. Not everyone's going to change their mind. But seeing it modeled, seeing people change their mind as a model is much more powerful than someone who's already had their mind changed trying to argue. Right. So seeing it modeled, excellent, right? Really, really good. So, but it's not just there, right? We had Tucker, had Bukele on the other day, right? Bukele's on, another independent voice. So you get Dr. Phil, you get Tucker, had Bukele on. It was a great interview. People were talking about it. It was what I was going to talk about yesterday. It was a pretty important one, but nevertheless, they talked about what's wrong with America, what's going on. Very interesting interview. Now, yesterday, you also had David Sachs come out and publicly endorse Trump, right? So yesterday, David Sachs, All In podcast, was just called a right-wing MAGA person a few days ago by another VC who's got mental illness. And on the fake news networks, right? These All In podcast guys have MAGA something. So Adam Townsend writing, the David Sachs endorsement is huge. As my friend Cernovich has commented about the election, this opens the door for pragmatism. I'll take this win. So here he comes, David Sachs, and he says why I'm backing President Trump. As many press accounts have reported, I'm hosting a fundraising event for President Donald J. Trump at my home in San Francisco this evening. That was last night. Over the last couple of years, I have hosted events for presidential candidates Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Robert Kennedy Jr., as well as several congressional figures in both major parties. I give to many, but endorse few. But today I am giving my endorsement to our 45th president, Donald J. Trump, to be our 47th president. My reasons rest on four main issues that I think are vital to American prosperity, security, and stability. Issues where the Biden administration has veered off badly and where I think President Trump can lead us back. The economy, he says, first of all. That's pretty obvious, right? Biden inflation, foreign war, and Ukraine war policies, blah, blah, blah. The border, and finally, lawfare. So the four are the economy, the wars, the border, and, the border and the economy are pretty related. Wars and the border are pretty related. And then finally, lawfare and everything that's going through him, right? So just another voice out there that I think is credibly independent, credibly within our own sphere of finance and Bitcoin and what's going on with that stuff. And he's been there for a long time. And so he's a big part of that, right? Then you also get Jack Dorsey yesterday, right? Jack Dorsey at the Oslo Freedom Forum. Jack Dorsey, another person I would put in this group, right? Jack Dorsey, not exactly a media guy, but This is someone who doesn't have a boss, right? Another person with absolutely no boss goes on to a show produced by CK, a regular watcher of the Breakup, right? So CK used to be with Bitcoin Magazine, produced the Oslo Freedom Forum show where he got Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey there talking about algorithms, speaking of where you get your information from, right? So Jack Dorsey getting deep, saying that we're programmed by black box algorithms and that they are impacting our free will and the agency that we have. Based Beth Bezos, the accelerationist from Montreal, as I understand. Information propagation, algorithmic hyperparameters are the latent levers for cybernetic cultural control at mass scale. What do I talk? Those are, so, Beth Bezos using a lot of fancy words here, but what do I always say from what he just said? Information propagation, right? The whole fiat system requires the media to propagate the consensus of the network. If it can't, and we talk about the fault tolerance of it, right? That it has a very low fault tolerance, right? If Phil Bump is starting to try to teach you that where you get, be careful about where you get your information from, there's a problem, right? And that's what's going on. So information propagation of the network requires huge amounts of consensus in the USD thing to go forward. It doesn't have that anymore, right? So that's why you get this whole situation where we're getting people like Dr. Phil, David Sachs, Jack Dorsey, right? Independent people that are indeed, they don't have a boss, right? They're not the hero with one revenue source, one income source. These are heroes with multiple revenue sources, 1,000 wallets, not 1,000 faces, 1,000 wallets at this point. And these folks can't be shut up. Right? There's just no way to shut up someone like David Sachs. There's no way to get someone like Jack Dorsey to self-censor any longer because the dam is broken and these people are no longer afraid, just like we heard from Cernovich and Townsend, right? Having people like David Sachs publicly now endorsing Trump, which is what I said was a big difference last week with the lawfare stuff, that you now have an avenue to publicly say it, is a big change, right? So it's going to help the network propagate forward. So you've got him, you got Tucker Carlson. I mentioned his whole thing with Bukele 2 days ago. A great interview if you haven't seen it. They don't talk about Bitcoin, but it's still a great interview. Here, Tucker Carlson's been going hard at the Hunter laptop story, right? And how fake that is. But here's what we got, right? Bill Ackman, of course, who is also now heavily criticizing the Democrats over this stuff. Bill Ackman, by the way, also starting to publicly endorse Trump, saying the Hunter Biden laptop episode caused a grave loss of confidence in POTUS Biden and the important American institutions, including the media, the FBI, the CIA, and the Democrat Party. We won't learn from our mistakes without the people responsible acknowledging their culpability. That has yet to happen here, right? So, and everyone passing this 20-minute video around of all the news sources saying the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation, right, from 2020. It's the same as these people like Nancy Pelosi coming out yesterday. Did you hear what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday? So they drag out old Nancy, right? And it's these ones where they have to say that Biden is doing great, It's the same as those videos where it's a threat to our democracy, those compilation videos, and now you have the compilation video of the Russian thing being fake. So here's what we've got Nancy Pelosi on, right? So Nancy Pelosi is there going on about, it's always the behind closed doors, yeah. What did I say about how funny it is watching Janet Yellen and all these people who have to meet with Biden, and they're going out and saying he's doing great. Now, he's doing so poorly that yesterday he had an event at the D-Day thing where he looks like I'll give him credit. He does kind of look like he's sitting down, right? He's looking for a chair. But everybody on the internet saw him shitting himself, right? So if he went on the internet yesterday, it was poopy pants this, poopy pants that. Everybody can see it, right? He doesn't know where he is. He was lost twice yesterday. And everybody on Twitter thinks he shot himself. Everybody, right? And it kind of looked like he shot himself, right? And then his wife blocks her mouth like this and they have to get him out of there pretty quickly. So now that that's happening, right? Now that it's happening, Wall Street Journal wrote an article, participants in private meetings with 81-year-old President Biden said he has shown signs of slipping. The White House says he's sharp and his critics are playing partisan politics, they say. So Nancy Pelosi comes out. Many of us spent time with the WSJ to share on the record our firsthand experiences with POTUS, where we see his wisdom, experience, strength, and strategic thinking, right? Because it's all behind closed doors that they can only see it, right? It's always behind closed doors. He's doing great, right? He's doing just great. But what does this do to their credibility? It obviously shoots it even lower, right? And anyone who's out there having to do this becomes less and less credible, which is what we love, right? Which is what we need and why it's funny. So, and then of course we have Steve Bannon yesterday. So Steve Bannon now has to report to jail. It's not funny. Steve Bannon has to report to jail. And what's his crime? Steve Bannon's crime, it turns out, is ignoring a subpoena to the January 6th inquiry. So he didn't want to come because it's a scam. And if you didn't know, they, just like a court, the Congress can call you to testify and force you. They can subpoena you. Now, it's not the same court system, right? But apparently they have a jail and they can jail people. So that's what he was saying yesterday. At the same time, you had Merrick Garland saying that he doesn't need to respond to congressional subpoenas if he decides they're not legitimate, right? But that's what Steve Bannon is in trouble for. So now it's always been this tit for tat thing, right? We always understand that there's hypocrisy built in and all that. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. This time around, you've got independent people who don't have a boss, who have financial means, right? Some of them are Bitcoiners. Some of them just don't have to listen to this stuff anymore. And those are the people who you're getting this information from, right? That's why I brought up Dr. Phil Tucker, David Sachs, Steve Bannon, who runs a show. And indeed, Steve Bannon, if you look at why they're giving him shit, right? It's that, here's what it is. According to Mike Ben-Sire, the prosecutors literally asked for and got prison for Steve Bannon because his media platform, it's the media platform that got him in trouble, right? Mocks members of the committee through offensive name calling and ridicules the criminal justice system through hyperbole. It's perfect. That's what's in the indictment, right? That's what's in the indictment here, right? So they're asking for 6 months in prison and a $200,000 fine for Steve Bannon. But again, he has a media company, the War Room. It's the same play we've seen a few times now, that the independent media people are the target, because exactly as Phil Bump has figured out, where you get your media and information from matters and definitely does change your opinion, because your opinions are assigned to you. That's it, right? That's what's going on. So, but here's the contrast again, right? So look at the people who are able to speak independently, right? They're all rich, they're all successful. Now, who are we up against? Who's out there trying to run the counter messaging, right? We've got James Comey the other day, but he's got to go on CNN. James Comey doesn't have an inherent audience. So James Comey has to go on CNN, and he says the following: the FBI has seen the damage lies can do, because he's still trying to get after Trump, right? But this thing doesn't go further than his mentally ill little cabal of people. It can't get further. It can't persuade people, right? There's no persuading. James Comey cannot change a single vote in America anymore. He can't. He can't change a single vote unless he continues to do interviews where people are disgusted with him and back away, right? They get revolted. Then you get Eric Holder. Eric Holder was the former attorney general under Obama, right? So the former attorney general goes on CNN and starts talking about how an administration can corrupt the attorney general's office in the Department of Justice. And he's doing it to talk about what Trump will do if he comes back. First of all, everyone's already seen 4 years of Trump and nothing like this happened, right? But everything he described, everything the former attorney general described, was exactly what Trump's experiencing today. So the more and more people try to put attention on Trump and the legal cases, the less and less they're going to be able to use him doing the same thing back as scaremongering, or it just won't work. You've already seen the example. So watching Eric Holder try to push this conspiracy theory that Trump is going to take over the Department of Justice and do everything that Biden has already done is just funny now, right? So Eric Holder, now a few years ago, someone like Eric Holder would have had a lot more persuasion amplification because people still believed the news. That's finished. So Eric Holder going on the news, James Comey, they both have to go on CNN. How far and how much influence can this possibly generate? Nothing. No one reads this shit. No one pays attention, right? So you've got both of these things that are a big issue. Then you've got, here's just another one that's funny. You've got someone who worked for, what's his shit? The communist, Bernie Sanders. So he's working for Bernie Sanders. Like, her name is Brianna Joy Gray. So she's on a thing the other day, rolling her eyes about something to do with Israel and whatever, right? She's like, rolls her eyes. So she gets fired. So she tries to go on the internet today and cry, right? She goes, it finally happened. She got fired because she rolled her eyes about Jewish suffering or something Israel, Palestine, who knows? And she goes, it finally happened. The Hill has fired me. There should be no doubt that Rising the Hill has a clear pattern of suppressing speech, particularly when it's critical of the state of Israel. This is why they fired someone else. I don't know her handle. And it was only a matter of time before they fired me, right? And then she says, you can continue to follow me on Patreon, right? Who's going to follow her on Patreon? She's not going to make it. Right. And now she did the same thing to Sargon of Akkad a couple years ago, but Cernovich kept the receipts. She says years ago, right, Carl Benjamin, when he was kicked off, says YouTube's user communities, this is from 2017, need free speech guaranteed, even if they say it is not to your liking to safeguard your own speech. So Brianna Joy Gray back in 2017 says free speech does exist here, but it doesn't mean freedom from social consequences from your actions, right? So Cernovich retweets her own tweet at her yesterday, right? So this was someone who was totally okay with censorship in 2017 because it wasn't her. Now she's got to deal with the consequences, the social consequences of her ridiculous actions. So that's not going to work, right? These independent people are just not strong enough anymore. They're just not strong enough, right? How can they stop a message like Tucker and Bukele? This is what he said, right? The U.S. is built as a superpower. The U.S. has everything to go on for 1,000 years. Most of the leaders are not seeing it. Either they're evil and they want to destroy the U.S., or they're puppets, or they're incompetent. Those are our conclusions here, right? This is Bukele on Tucker. Changing a lot of things that are badly done will anger some groups, some lobbyists, a lot of mayors, and a lot of companies. You have a system that needs to be handled. It needs leadership and a clear mandate that's hard to get because of bipartisanship, but you need to do it, he says. So is there any way to stop that kind of messaging from filtering anymore? Of course not, right? Of course not. So, but then again, right, the hero piece here is not over yet, right? There's more to it. Being a hero to help explain to people that Trump wasn't so bad, and that's all well and good, right? That Trump was the victim of the media, but that still has its limitations, right? There's some people that will never like Trump, which I understand. There's some people for whom that argument will never sink, right? It just will never happen. But there's more to being a hero than that, right? There's more to being a hero than just underlining fake news and making sure people don't get stressed about the weather or laugh at monkeys falling out of trees in Mexico because of the heat. So it's more than that, right? It's also about ringing the bell when things are actually dangerous. And there's an event happening now, and this is where the hero thing takes over, right? This is where people like Bukele, people like David Sachs, people like Dr. Phil are going to become even more important. And where people like that do news like this, right, without a boss, are even more important. And where Bitcoiners are going to become even more important in this conversation. And that's the following story, right? So here's one that you're not going to hear from any other news source. This has been going on for weeks. We've got all kinds of people like Balaji, also no boss, also rich, not worried about who he's offending, not worried about any of that stuff, has been talking about this for months now, right? But it turns out, and this goes back to this hero archetype, right? So, and indeed, hero archetype is one of our important archetypes here. One of the important things we can do in this time and place. It's the reason why I think this hero archetype is why people like Balaji and Jack Dorsey and Dr. Phil and all these people are coming along and changing their points of view, right? So it's one of the main reasons. So what's going on is, while they're worried about the temperature in Arizona in the summer, it's hot. While they're worried about the 3 people that have died of bird flu and the 1 diabetic bedridden guy in Mexico, and the reason why they're talking about all of this stuff is because they don't want to talk about this, right? So And this goes beyond the Trump thing. This goes beyond any of that. This is where Bitcoiners really do ascend to hero status when it comes to underlining stories that are important, where you get your information from, exactly as Phil Bump said, right? Exactly as Phil Bump said. So the big thing here with the big thing here is that you're going to see Bitcoiners bring this up. We've been bringing this up for years. And this is a big deal, right? We've got Balaji describing what this is all about, saying that the China sold $50 billion of US bonds last quarter. Officially, they buy $25 billion of gold per year. At that rate, they'll flip reserves by 2026. So 2 more years, and they're not even going to be holding USD as reserve anymore. So, and then he says Chinese state media is explicit about their goal: reduce dependence on US debt and acquire gold instead. The math on anything like this is still rough. Still, if the rate continues, they're selling about $200 billion worth of US bonds a year, and they're going to make money off of it, right? So why would they stop? So, guys, the US dollar is toast. It's not coming back, and it's not making it to 2028. I don't care what anyone says. These people who will tell you, oh, US dollar is still strong. Yeah, but it's momentum. It's the types of gravitational pulls we're talking about here go overnight, right? They're overnight. So it's for those reasons that you're going to see way more people spring up, way more people ringing the alarm. Heroes will emerge from all of this. And it won't be the same kind of thing as, look, Trump, everything they said about Trump was a lie. Change your mind. This is going to be different. This is going to be, look, everything they told you about the soundness of our system, it's going to be like the Wiley academic newspaper, or the Wiley academic journal that we just talked about. It's a rug pull of epic proportions when you find out the whole thing's a scam. The whole thing, right? And that's what we're running towards. That's what we're running towards. And that's why it's fun, right? That's why it's fun. All right, that's what I got for today. That's what I got for today. That's what we got. The deep state is desperate. They sure are. Let's see if I got this. Adult diapers. Myself, 3 cent, not a fan. Mm-hmm. Art, what's zero? Hold on, what are we talking about? I tried gravities. Oh, we're talking about some books here. Power of Myth, A New Hope. Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out these things. I wake up, maltodextrin, red 40, and natural flavors. FDA approved maltodextrin. We love it. I tried Gravity's Rainbow. My son read it, encouraged me to work through it. It's one of my favorite books. I absolutely love Pinchon. I usually put a book down if I can't read it multiple times. Yeah, I can't stand. I had trouble with that book too, man. I think you have to be taking care of so I was taking care of a bicycle at the time. My dad read that book. He liked it. It's really just feel guilty for not doing the perfect job every time. Funny Moscow, the Mockingbirds definitely produce consistent quality nonsense. It looks like the Chinese are selling dollars by buying gold. That's exactly what's going on. Yeah. Having said that, it's Friday, so I'm sure there will be another space drop this weekend. Indeed. U.S. has tried to bribe and save from dumping bonds. Good luck with that with other nations like China and BRICS by stacking gold. Yeah. Thomas, caught a live stream again. Awesome, my man. Ryan McLeod saying mandibles. Yeah, well, I haven't read it, but we're fans. We're fans. In terms of news distribution, I think you are forgetting about Google News, Bing News, and Facebook. These guys have a far more. Yeah, they suck. They all suck. I do my best to keep them away from me. Yeah, we're not quite there, but again, the the credibility of the source is just every day failing. Like, who do we think that Eric Holder's media tour yesterday and James Comey's from 2 days ago, how many people did that change, right? How many people can Brianna Joy Gray ever, how many minds can she possibly change from now until the end of fiat? Zero. The answer is none. No one will listen to these people. So, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So that's why we're winning. That's why we're winning. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I hope you have a great day. It's Friday. Please enjoy your weekend. Please enjoy your weekend. I got all kinds of stuff to do. All right. Peace. 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 Peace.